También promueve la creación de cajas de ahorros y crédito para impulsar el emprendimiento. Estos proyectos son muy importantes porque nos ayudan a mejorar la calidad de vida en nuestros hogares y la calidad de la pesca en la comunidad.
En el estado Sucre vivimos de la pesca y este proyecto es una oportunidad. Seguimos trabajando con la FAO para el bienestar de nuestra comunidad.
Estas praderas eran llenas de hichos, pastos, habían buenas vacas, buena alimentación, ¿no?
Antes veníamos a pastear nuestros animales a este lugar. Aquí había grandes cantidades de agua. En ese tiempo tomábamos desde aquí, pero en el transcurso que iba pasando los años llevaron el proyecto Río Cachi para el consumo en Huamanga mismo, en Ayacucho. Entonces, cuando pasó eso es que desapareció el agua. Prácticamente como llevaron un túnel, el agua se metió, ¿no?, adentro y nos dejó sequedad, ¿no? Entonces prácticamente estamos ya, desde ese tiempo más o menos, estamos en sequedad, ya no tenemos agua.
Siempre lo hablamos, ¿no?, con los cuentos de los abuelos. A veces mis hijos o los niños preguntan, ¿no?, ¿por qué es el agua así, las piedras tan amarillas? Dice, hijo, antes había acá truchas, acá pescaban mis abuelitos, ya era agua limpia, y cuando ya había terremoto en años 70, apareció el óxido y desapareció toda la trucha, y por ahí el agua está contaminado, tiene harto hierro y alcaparrosa.
Hace 10, 20 años. Nosotros compramos en cisternas y acá todo esto era arenal. Teníamos que comprar en bidones y correr con los bidones a rastras y abrir una entrada para que entre el camión cisterna porque no entraba. Y en ese entonces pues nos teníamos que medir. Era costoso el agua.
Había truchas, pescábamos, y nosotros jóvenes así íbamos y pescábamos, ¿no? Y ahí cuando ya los años avanzaban ya no había. Ahí empecemos a darnos cuenta y empezó a amarillarse el río. Ya cambiaba de color. Y hasta ahorita ya más y más y más y más. Ahora, como ustedes ven, ahora ya no es río negro, pues es río amarillo. Arriba en la cuenca, en la salida hay minerales, y con la desglaciación, cambio climático, las erosiones se van bajando y empieza ya a jalar todos esos minerales, los óxidos, todas esas cositas. Y nos han dicho que hay también muchos metales pesados acá en el lago. No es apto para el consumo humano. Acá en esta zona no tenemos ni filtraciones, manantiales, muy poco, y el único abastecimiento es el río. Hemos tomado esa decisión de hacer investigaciones, cómo darle la solución, porque para poder solucionarlo y cómo poder siquiera quitar un porcentaje de minerales, óxidos.
En esta zona, con el cambio climático, nos encontramos en la necesidad de escasez de recursos hídricos y no contamos. Aparte de eso, años atrás, en esta zona se ha desaparecido el agua, está filtrando hacia subsuelo y está saliendo al canal de Cache. Entonces, en esta parte de la altura, como que no hay agua, ¿no?
La disminución del recurso hídrico, que cada año se viene disminuyendo, inclusive la disminución de los glaciales, y consecuencia en la parte baja la disminución de las aguas para los cultivos. Al ver pocos recursos hídricos, vemos afectado disminución en los pastos en la parte pecuaria y disminución también en las áreas de cultivo, lo que permite que cada día se va degradando todas las actividades y va disminuyendo el beneficio económico de ello, ¿no? ¿Por qué? Porque no va a haber agua, menos cultivos, menos ingresos y se traduce en efectos a la educación, la salud y realmente en el progreso. Los suelos que ellos utilizan muchas veces en las zonas altas, que son suelos de pasto, lo utilizan para cultivo porque ya no tienen acceso a los terrenos en otra zona por la población que viene creciendo. Al ser usado por cultivo es erosionado porque lo dejan descubierto, es erosionado por la lluvia, se pierde la capa arable, muchas veces varios centímetros y realmente se viene empobreciendo más el suelo. Se viene desertificando y a través de algunos manejos de sobrepastoreo se viene perdiendo los pastos nativos y esto disminuye realmente a la carga animal o mayor alimento para los ganados, ¿no? Viene disminuyendo los pastos, viene disminuyendo su capacidad de tener ganado. Lo más importante para las comunidades es la recuperación y el manejo de los pastos.
Si las cosas siguen con el cambio climático, sigue este problema de agua, hasta uno piensa en emigrar de esta zona, ¿no? Grave es la situación. Porque si hubiese agua todo el año, sacaríamos provecho de temporada de lluvia natural nada más. Esto no nos permite sembrar todo el año por el agua, pues que no, el agua es contaminado. Entonces tenemos que esperar la época de la lluvia para poder sacarle provecho a la agricultura. Solamente es a partir de octubre, noviembre, diciembre, enero, febrero, hasta mayo, que es la cosecha. De ahí ya no, hasta otra vuelta, hasta mes de octubre, que empezamos con nuestros cultivos agrícolas. Nosotros lo consideramos que el agua es vida. Sin agua, ¿qué podemos hacer? Ni ganadería, ni agricultura, ni nosotros mismos. ¿Qué hacemos? No hay vida. Por eso la preocupación de hacer este tipo de estudios, trabajos, experimentos.
Como la señora Teresa, siempre nos ha venido enseñándonos, o sea, ¿no? Dándonos algunas capacitaciones como cuidar, implementar de repente las áreas verdes de esta zona o áreas que no habían, o sea, no teníamos apoyo, sí, sinceramente, ¿no? Pero ella con sus ganas de ella salir adelante, de enseñarnos, hemos ido y hasta que vino este tiempo de pandemia, se nos ha dado eso por ver este espacio que estaba así, ¿no? Libre, agarrar y ver más bien por qué no sembramos plantas frutales, no necesariamente árboles, ¿no? Que es muy bueno también para el medio ambiente, ¿no? Que nos da el oxígeno.
Mi pradera está cambiándose bastante diferente lo que era antes, porque ya vemos los cambios que ahorita que hemos trabajado
con zanja de filtración y con los plantones y los pastos que hemos sembrado. Y también por el hecho que hemos hecho nuestro enmallado. Pues, digamos, gracias a los ingenieros que nos han incentivado al pueblo para poder trabajar, porque tenemos dificultades de nuestros pastos para nuestros animales. Nosotros hemos acordado en una reunión para poder trabajar porque teníamos dificultades de pastos para nuestros animales. Nosotros comenzamos a trabajar en primer lugar enmallado y después abriendo zanjas de filtraciones para obtener más recargas hídricas.
En el año 2018, con el Fondo Sierra Azul, se ha construido un total de 15 hochas en este territorio que pertenece a las comunidades de Cochabamba Alta, Chupas Alta y Ahuapucyo, con un total de volumen de almacenamiento de 557.923 metros cúbicos de agua. Y en el año 2019 se ha trabajado el tema de monitoreo hidrológico para identificar el impacto de estas hochas, porque se encuentran concentrados en una microcuenca y por lo tanto el impacto ha sido al primer año después de haber construido estas hochas. El primer beneficio directo ha sido, mientras construíamos las hochas, ya la población habían instalado 5.000 unidades de alivinos en las hochas, en 3 hochas. Eso ha sido el primer beneficio para la población. Luego el segundo beneficio es el uso del agua para riego. Producen actualmente papa para siembra temprana.
Tenemos una naturaleza que nos brinda donde podemos acumular a la madre naturaleza el agua, y por eso nosotros hemos enfocado desde la municipalidad para poder conservarlo y aparte también para seguir aumentando mayor cantidad de hochas. Desde que hizo Sierra Azul 15 lagunas, nosotros hemos aumentado 14 lagunas. Entonces, ¿cuál ha sido el fin? Como vuelvo a reiterar, el fin ha sido pues para que el tema hídrico se incremente, ¿no? Porque nosotros somos ganaderos, somos agricultores, vivimos del campo, vivimos de la madre naturaleza y lo que necesitamos es el tema de agua. Lamentablemente, pues en estas alturas, como ven, es secano, y nosotros cómo vamos a empezar quizás a conservar la madre naturaleza y también alimentarnos de ello. Es por eso que nuestro enfoque es crear más cantidad de hochas, crear más cantidad de lagunas artificiales para tener varios beneficios. Uno de ellos es pues nosotros para el consumo humano y también para el tema de agricultura, y otro es pues el tema paisajístico, y también hay nuevas aves silvestres que vienen a visitarnos, y eso creo que también cambia en el tema del paisaje, ¿no?
La desglaciación avanza mucho y el agua empezó a contaminarse. Y ese es el problema que tenemos, problema muy álgido en cuencas del Valle del Río Negro, que se llama. Ahora, con este problema que tenemos, hemos empezado ya a preocuparnos y hacer una investigación, ¿no? Para poder subsanar, remediar o qué hacer para la vivencia, porque el agua es vida.
Esta planta absorbe hacia arriba los minerales y ellos lo retienen. Ahorita el agua, en este tiempo, ahorita tiene de la entrada 3.5 de pH. Como ya viene destilándose como en esta forma que estamos viendo en forma de la tripa, acá en el medio que hemos medido con el pHímetro, tenemos 4.0 de pH. Acá viene ya un poco cambiando. Y la salida que estamos viendo ya viene 6.3, 6.5. Entonces el agua puede ser apto para el consumo. Yo misma, mi persona, me siento ya contenta de lo que he estado ya en duda, ya me está saliendo esa duda. ¿Por qué? Porque yo estoy viendo en realidad en sí misma, yo mismo estoy viniendo, trabajando, haciendo estas cosas, y debemos seguir haciendo, y queremos que también que ustedes vienen, quieren que nos apoyes curando esto nuestro agua.
En una primera etapa se ha hecho el trabajo de identificación. ¿Qué ecosistemas tenemos como reserva? ¿Cuáles son los más vulnerables quizás al cambio climático, o los ecosistemas estratégicos que se deberían priorizar, dentro de los cuales se habían identificado 3, los bosques nativos, los bofedales y los pajonales? Dentro de estos 3, con el trabajo con las comunidades, se ha visto por conveniente trabajar por el ecosistema forestal, los bosques nativos. Dentro de esto se piensa restaurar, estamos en la primera etapa, que es de propagación de especies. Luego se viene una segunda etapa, que es la parte de reforestación con especies nativas. Las comunidades, conjuntamente con las instituciones, se han involucrado bastante por estos temas de recuperación, conservación y restauración de los ecosistemas. Ellos han sido partícipes desde el inicio y hasta ahora, ¿no? El compromiso ha sido fuerte. Entonces nosotros esperamos que ese compromiso se siga manteniendo, se siga sucediendo a las nuevas generaciones también.
O sea, de la tubería del tanque que nosotros tenemos de lavadero, de ahí sale la misma tubería directo acá. Y en algunos casos, por ejemplo, los que viven cerca a veces, cuando en época de verano más que todo, es traer las aguas de el segundo enjuague de la lavadora. Eso lo utilizamos también para reforzar, porque mayormente el agua, como no es mucho que utilizamos, porque también reducimos un poco el uso, viene y humedece la tierra. Y ellos un poco del agua, por ejemplo, cuando lavan las lentejas, el arroz, eso lo juntan en balde y a la hora que se van o en la tarde vienen y lo echan o si no hoy día, por ejemplo, tempranito, agarran el balde y lo echan en las parcelas.
Reciclamos también el agua, ¿no? Que nosotros a veces lavamos, regamos también una vez por semana, ¿no? En verano lo hacemos 2 o 3 veces, dependiendo pues también, ¿no? Pero es algo que nos nace en la misma naturaleza, o sea, cuando ves las cosas que están bonitas, tus plantas.
Nosotros siempre tenemos el fe al cerro, el pagapo, para poder tener más abundante la agua y con ese agua para poder mejorar nuestra agricultura, tanto en la ganadería, tanto también en la alimentación de nuestros futuros hijos, para que no caigan a la desnutrición. Con lo cual tenemos el fe en el cerro, tanto en la naturaleza, para que nos brinda ese servicio.
Es nuestra madre naturaleza, es nuestra mamá para nosotros. Entonces, nosotros lo vemos pues como un agradecimiento, es más que nada el tema de dar también de nuestra parte, el tema de como lo que nosotros hacemos comúnmente, ¿no? A la mamá hay que llevarle pues cosas que nacen del hijo, del corazón, y nosotros igual rendimos pues un homenaje, le damos el tributo a la Pachamama, las cosas más bonitas para poder agradecerlo de todo lo que nos han brindado, ¿no?
No se trata de construir un dique basado en las técnicas que te permita retener la mayor cantidad de agua posible. No se trata solamente de eso. El corazón de esta práctica
Muy buenas tardes, buenos días.
Good afternoon and good morning, depending on your time zone. It's a pleasure to welcome you to our webinar, Preparing for La Niña, Advances and Challenges to Measure its Impact on Agri-food Systems. My name is Marion Camis. I'm a specialist in risk management and resilience at the FAO Regional Office for Latin America and the Caribbean. And I will chair this webinar. Welcome, everyone. For those with us today, this webinar is part of the series Risk Management and Resilience in Agriculture. We have had several sessions before. You may access all of them in the FAO's webpage, which will be shared over the chat pod. Also, you can download the attendance certificate through a link certificate that will be published, that will be shared near the end of the broadcast. This is being broadcasted in the English and Spanish through FAO's YouTube channel from the website www.fao.org/Americas and from the Twitter account at FAO Capacitación. So let's greet our panel today. We have Yolanda Gonzalez. She's a director with the SIIFEN or CFEN. Jaime Letelier, he's from Fishing Development Institute, IFOP, and Maria Vera Maximo. She's the coordinator of information management from the Central American Mission for Action Against Hunger. Juan Trivin, he's specialist in food security and agricultural means, and from Colombia, and Daniel Williams, she's head of the planning office from agriculture, forestry, fishing, and rural transformation from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So welcome for joining us today. And unfortunately, Savastedi, who is a specialist in the impact assessment that was supposed to join us from Rome, unfortunately will not be joining us. After 2023, with the El Niño that brought droughts, heat waves, floods in the region, and other climate variabilities and extreme events, we're facing now a new alert that we will be going into La Niña after in the second semester of 2024. The forecast of this new cycle of climate variability emphasizes the importance of strengthening agri-food, agri-climatic systems. We don't really know yet, and we will be discussing this today, what will happen with La Niña. But we're learning many times under lots of stress to deal with the uncertainty by pushing actions so in order to decrease potential damages and react in a timely and an efficient manner. With El Niño, we have seen the anticipatory short-term actions to an alert to minimize potential impacts before they take place, strengthening infrastructure, activating cash transfers, and distributing negative condition resistant input makes a difference in the agri-food systems to face these type of challenges. We have also learned that it is always necessary to be ready because there will be critical situations, especially in agriculture, livestock, aquaculture, forestry, which are particularly sensitive to climate shocks, as well as in fishing, because temperature changes in the ocean, they also bring lots of effect. Part of the preparation to react to these shocks related to La Nina is having the capabilities to assess impact. As any other capability, this has to be prepared in peace times. When we have this type of event, we need to understand what is the affected zone, who were affected, and how we can help to repair the damage. And we need this information as soon as possible. This information is also essential to see disasters of slow development, such as drought that in the rural areas are eroding the capability of producing food, means of life, and food security of people. And the information, it's important for the various organizations that will be part of the response. But what type of information are we actually generating? What impacts are we really measuring in agri-food system? What methodologies, technologies, innovations? How is this information being used for decision making? What are the most pressing gaps? We'll be discussing this with our panel in the following manner. Each one of them will have 5 minutes for a presentation. Ideally, I mean, don't extend after the 5 minutes. And then I have a few questions for a round of, and then we will take questions from the audience. It is really important to write down your questions or concerns. You can share them over the chat pod, and this will be addressed in the final segment of this webinar. For panel members, please forgive me if I have to stop your presentations, but we have a constrained time frame for this important conversation today. So the Yolanda Gonzalez, she is director of CFEN. She will be explaining what is and what can we expect from these La Niña forecast. Yolanda, the floor is yours.
Muy buenos días a todos. Muchísimas
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Marian, and everyone in the session. We will briefly look at the current conditions of the planet and what could we expect for the coming weeks. We all know that climate phenomena and climate variability phenomena are more and more important in our day-to-day and in decision making. I cannot advance my slides if you could help me here. I don't even know if you actually can actually see my presentation. No, we only see your first slide. In the meantime, those who are joining the session, this is a regional webinar for Latin America and the Caribbean, getting ready for La Niña, advances and challenges to measure the impact in agri-food systems. And we have our first panel member, Yolanda Gonzalez. She's the director of CFEN. And she's addressing the problem with okay, thank you. Okay, in this, these are the climate change scenarios showing that considerable changes in the last few decades, and what can we expect in these temperature conditions in 2024. These are the trends that don't look very promising in terms of anomalies of temperature, both in the ocean and on the land. We see that these anomalies are more and more significant. With a warmer planet, we're living through El Niño with a warm planet. Every month we have record temperatures in the ocean, in the atmosphere. In April, now we've seen changes between the neutrality and the preparation of La Nina with lots of temperature anomalies. This is a wake-up call for everyone because of these changes that will bring about these climate events, which were not expected for La Nina before. These phenomena have four phases. So we, from the CFEN, we would like to change the view, not just wait for the maturity phase, which we are used to see the impacts. The anticipatory measures, as discussed before, are vital today. This is the fastest and the earliest action. Events not only have impacts on during the maturation phase, but they also have signs at the early stages and development, such as in the case of El Nino. We know for those who are listening to this for the first time, when the Pacific, the tropical Pacific Ocean, it's warm, we have El Nino, and we go to a colder waters. That means La Nina, where after decades we had transition periods which are no longer true. About a year ago, we went from La Nina, and in March we already have signs for El Nino. Today we are in March and April with signs of La Nina. Neutrality is it's no longer here. That is, we haven't been able to recover from previous climate variability, and now we are going to the exactly the other end, the opposite end. So we should act on recovery and restoration and anticipation. This is the a general map of where we will have Central America, the North, South America with excessive rainfall, and globally South America with the rain deficits. But here we have a new lesson after El Nino 2023-2024, where we had El Nino generated drought. They were very strong, and recovery processes are taking long. And where El Nino was rainy, there was a reduction in the rainfall. And those are signs of weakening. That is the message of protection in terms of drought in both scenarios. Warm phases as El Niña in 1997 made us think of La Niña 2010. These events, even though, as we see here, are much wider or longer, El Nino, are shorter and stronger, but we have to be careful. The category and intensity are not that significant when getting ready. The most significant part is to wait until the impacts are very significant, regardless of the category of the new La Nina. The likelihood, the probabilities are increasing. And the information says that by mid this year, the moisture should be much higher. In Australia and the US information, we have a cold water in the Pacific Ocean, in the tropical area. Rates are changing. Uh, the intensity and the season of the year, the interaction with climate patterns. We are in the dry month, and there is a drought. Be careful. And if it's a rainy season and there's rain, you have to be careful. The impacts, each one of the sectors, how we get ready. In this case, agriculture, livestock, fishing, inland or continental, coastal, and the rest of ecosystems, and the deficit of moisture that may affect us. Lessons learned, and in the Caribbean, in Central America, we have to remember that when there is a La Nina, when we have La Nina, the Pacific, it's cold, and the rest of the planet is cold. In 2023, we have had anomalies with a very warm Atlantic oceans. We have to consider this a variable that we have much stronger hurricanes when we have La Nina, and with these pressing variable of a very significant anomaly in the Atlantic, which we hope there will be a fast change to the opposite conditions. These blue and green charts in North and South America and Central America related to the transit of tropical waves that could affect the Atlantic and the Caribbean area, and much more deficit areas in Central and South America, which and also the islands, that the food security and agricultural where in islands where the impacts are much more significant. Here in Ecuador, Galapagos, Easter Island, because we have to consider this, and with a lower surface area, variables such as desertification, temperature, heat waves that have affected us and teaching us how to live in this warmer planet. Ocean anomalies with a forecast to be considered, and recommendations as how to live in community in managing risk for the preparation and recovery for everyone. In fishing, aquaculture, we will all need to learn to live with much warmer conditions or excess humidity to protect our farming. And finally, for this interaction and coordinate interinstitutional or coordination, we need monitoring, analysis of information. We need to update both communication and information is here. The climate is changing very fast, as well as weather. So please update with all the information, drive monitors, and the bulletins and other information that we will have for you. Which was established after El Nino 1997 and 98, with this call to research and to turn communities more resilient and more resilient. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yolanda, for this first approach. It's very complete as to what we can expect from La Niña. Your message is quite startling about the maximum alert that we should have when it comes to impacts. And on the other hand, I'm very happy about being able to place this topic in the agenda to begin to trigger the mechanisms that we have for diagnosis and risk analyses, to be able to move and activate the teams in the countries of the ministries of agriculture, livestock, fishery, forestry, and all the institutions in the region, so that we don't let time go by without attempting to implement measures to mitigate and reduce the risk and potential impacts. We will be speaking in further detail the actions. I think that's important to take that topic up again, but we will do that in the discussion of our session. Thank you for your presentation. So I would like to say about the ocean topic, the Niño and La Niña usually generate changes in temperature. I would like to invite Jaime Letelier of IIFO to let us know how as the Center for the Promotion of Fishing or Institute for the Promotion of Fishing, they have been able to analyze the implications of phenomena such as La Niña and El Niño in the fishing sector.
Muy buenas tardes.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Yes, we can. And I'm trying to show my presentation. While Jaime sets his presentation up, we would like to inform you that we are attending a webinar for Latin America and the Caribbean that's to prepare for La Niña, the analysis and the challenges to see what its impact will be in the agri-food systems. Today we have Jaime Letelier who will be presenting on behalf of IFOP in Chile. We can see a presentation, but not in presentation mode.
Lo había probado recién, estaba en modo presentación. Compartir pantalla, ventana. ¿Ahora sí?
Can you see it now? It's not in presentation mode, but we can see the content anyway. So if you can't set it up in presentation mode, it's okay anyway. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Jaime Letelier. I'm the head of the Oceanography Department of the Institute for the Promotion of Fishing, IFOP. Our goal is to generate research to assess the state of Chile for the contribution of data and information that allows better decision making when it comes to fishing and agriculture and the preservation of marine ecosystems and its organisms in the coast of Chile. We have a monitoring system. It's an annual monitoring system, and we've been using it for the last 50 years. We're actually celebrating the 60th anniversary of that system, where we do a diagnosis of the biomass, of the resources, the fishing resources, the pelagic, benthic, and the demersal fish species. in all the different cycles of life of such resources. The founders of this institute wish to supplement that diagnosis with oceanographic and weather data, and also data from the community of different types to be able to supplement that yearly diagnosis. But the scenario changed, the context changed. And now it's not only an annual diagnosis, but now we need to look retrospectively what we have seen to understand what is happening at the moment and try to plan ahead. So, what are the terms? Well, to see how the variability that we see and that we are uh, subject to changes the abundance distribution of fishing resources. Jaime, excuse me for interrupting, but we can only see the first slide of your presentation. Are we looking at the right one? No, apparently they are not. Okay, they're not changing. Okay, now we can see the next one. Okay, that's the 60 years of monitoring of biofishing and environmental aspects. We have 60 years already, a history of 60 years monitoring biofishing resources in different stages of development. First, we have anchovy, common sardine, and also the Chilean jack mackerel, hake, and also the bentonic or benthic ones like the ones that you can see on the screen, like codfish. And just monitoring all the aspects that have to do with the biofishing in monitoring. We have over 3,200 oceanographic stations. We have weather stations too, and a series of supplementary information that helps us to understand how abundant the resources are, allowing us to make decisions when it comes to the sustainability of fishing. The context that we had when IFOP was founded changed. Because although at the beginning it was an institute for development or promotion of fishing, now we are a research institute that works for the preservation of resources and thereby the sustainability for fishing and aquaculture activities. And we are analyzing as part of climate change what happened historically before and what has been done in the last 60 years to understand what is currently happening and make future predictions. As part of that context, and the topic at hand, there are some physical processes that maintain the productivity in the Pacific, South Pacific coastal area. Basically, there's a balance between stable weather conditions where we have different welling of water, and that maintains the secondary resources, which are the fishing resources, as part of the environmental or ecological system. And in that context, El Niño and La Niña are disturbances in this very stable system. In the last year, locally, we have suffered the effects of El Niño, as we can appreciate in the slide, where we can see the trends of the normal patterns in red and blue along the coast of Chile. The black line shows the evolution of El Niño 1+2, and that follows the trend of the models, indicating that El Niño effect is actually withdrawing. However, there are still local effects that we can observe. There's a 38% of probabilities to 83% likelihood actually to migrate to a neutral system. And we still have the effects of El Nino in the northern coast of Chile, therefore, in the fisheries of that area. The consequences of El Nino have been quite complex, particularly for our Peruvian neighbors and for us in the northern region of Chile. The distribution of the abundance of fishing, which is something that we share in the north of Chile with Peru, have actually not been available. There's been a crisis in fishing, which has been quite significant in the north of our country and in the whole of Peru. So what can we expect? According to the forecast, during El Nino, there was a weakening of the upwelling near the coast of Chile, and of course, a weakening of productivity. So we will move abruptly to La Niña, where the wind that helps or favors upwelling will be far more intense than it is normally is. So there will be a stressor, an environmental stressor, because we will have this change. And that will allow us over a short term the recovery of the habitats during that period of the main national fisheries and the Peruvian fisheries. We have a degree of uncertainty as to how the different organisms will respond to these very intense stressors. It will have a longer period of time to transit to a normal period, just as Yolanda has mentioned. We would then have an ecological response that would be within expectations. That means, back to normal, but it will be an abrupt, sudden change. And that change will generate a more intense stressor. And that's why we're uncertain as to what the response will be in the ecological systems. We expect that in the southern winter, we have a recovery of the egg laying, and so we can have better situation and the recovery of resources, because between the two events, El Nino and La Nina, El Nino is the one that has brought along more complexity when it comes to the availability, abundance, and distribution of resources. We're integrating all this information in an observation system that we share with our colleagues of IMARPE in Peru and those of the Institute of Aquaculture and Fishing in Ecuador, and coordinated by our different departments. We have been trying to have updated information on fishing. As for adaptation, I think the three countries are trying to come up with adaptive public policies with scientifically based decision making. The new act, Fishing Act, or actually it's a bill that is undergoing the Congress process right now, is trying to look into this matter to assess the impact of El Nino, La Nina, and climate change on the variability of fishing resources and their ecosystems. There's a point that I would like to highlight: El Nino and La Nina and climate change and the annual cycle are not individual elements. They are intertwined. They are linked at different levels, but they have different time and spatial manifestations. But they are, of course, all intertwined, as I said. The task force in our department includes PhDs and technicians, where we work and process all the information. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jaime from IFOP on his presentation on El Nino and La Nina as to fishing. what happens in the oceans. Your message on the sudden changes faced by species and how, since we have some sort of an overlap, there is a decrease in the resilience capability to adapt to these changes. So this is a scenario that means huge challenges. Let me now offer the floor to Maria Vera. It's from Action Against Hunger, because I would like to address. No, I'm sorry, Maria. No, 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 no. I'm sorry. Our Juan Tivin, he's a specialist in the assessment of impact in food security and livelihood. And there is a reason for that. So, Juan, please, you have the floor so that you can take us, that you can help us to include the dimension of impact with that has to do with the effects on livelihoods and rural populations related to agri-food systems, and of course the link with food security. So Juan, you have the floor, and Maria, you will be recognized after Juan. Okay, greetings for all of you, Marion and the Latin American, the Caribbean colleagues for the invitation. Thank you for allowing me to be here. Let me start my presentation. This is the camelid year. This is a vital species for the communities in the desert areas. And today I will be discussing a global initiative by FAO through the Emergency and Resilience Office in Rome, which is the Data and Emergencies DM, which is a system, which is a geospatial information system based on data to analyze risk and shocks and livelihood. So, Juan, if you could speak a bit slower in order to facilitate the interpretation into English so that we don't lose the context of your presentation. I was saying that this is an evaluation to recognize the shocks in the food systems and the livelihoods in the context of the food crisis. We've been doing this in 29 countries globally, and I will be elaborating, and I will be showing you these different countries. What are the different information outputs? We have 4, which is DM monitoring, DM impact, DM risk, and DM research. Basically, DM monitoring, this is an effort to collect information either on site or phone calls or other information tools to know the shocks on livelihoods and food security of households in specific territories. On the other hand, we have DM impact, which it's a tool that recognizes the effects of sudden shocks. And we also have DM risk, which is taking all the DM monitoring information in order to recognize based on the information. We can build the risk profiles on the territories so that we can have a better idea for anticipatory decision-making on the promotion of a comprehensive risk management. And DM research, which is the generation of outputs, products of a specific research in agreement with the different universities, such as University of Tulane, Cornell University, among others, that allows us to take the data to a more advanced level. DM monitoring, as I said, will collect the information at the households with a main focus on agricultural or farming households, but DM monitoring tries to reach other stakeholders such as key factors and stores, so that we can have a minimum statistical representatives at the admin 1, and then the countries we reach admin 2. What we want is to have a standardized form in every country for comparisons and better guide responses. And in this form, we have characterization, what has happened with the income and shocks in the households, also in the agricultural activities, recognizing what has happened with the food security indicators. In this case, we work with the FIES scale, and we also use other indicator, which is um, the LCS, HHS, and the needs for assistance at households. How do we carry out, how we collect information via monitoring? As I said, this is a on-site data collection, CADI, and and RDD. The goal is to collect information that will not exceed 1 month, because food security indicators they need to be 1 day old to be recognized as such, and the processing of data and the information is put in a dashboard, and that will not take more than within a time frame that will allow for immediate action. This is a snapshot of the dashboard, how in a round in Colombia, we see changes related to agricultural activities. We see what happened with El Niño and what happened in La Niña last year, in 2023, early in last year. And this, what we want here is to have this tool, the methodology, because the idea is that through information we can see the effects and past shocks to prevent future shocks. Now, into the purpose of the webinar, in the case of Colombia, when we had La Niña, late February 2023, many households reported effect for excess water because of rains. And now the El Niño, in November, December 2023, data showed that the main shock was a drought. However, we have a number of households reporting that the El Niño in the region were affected by excess rain. This was a cross-reference with ONI, the Oceanic Niño Index, and basically we found correlations of how phenomenon could reach communities that do not manage risk or that do not have anticipatory actions. This is how you gain access to the DM tool. Right now, we're in 5 countries in the region: Colombia, Haiti, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras. We have these information collection rounds in each country, but the idea is for you to know that there is a tool, there are methodologies that may be adopted or acquired through our regional office, and that there is a whole support team will allow us to have data capture in decision making. And in closing, the second tool is a DM Impact. This is a more well-established tool to recognize effects or damages. In this case, on the left-hand side, this is between December, February 2024 in Colombia, to see what were the effects due to forest fires. We have this tool that tells us a story of how the different livelihoods were affected by these forest fires using remote sensing tools. And we understand that with this tool and this methodology, we will be able to make a recognition of potential shocks of La Niña in 2024, which we know many communities have been already affected in the past. So that's the end of my presentation, and thank you for the opportunity.
Muchas gracias, Juan,
Thank you
por
so much, Juan, for giving us that introduction of the primary data recollection system and its different modalities and versions depending on the uses, from prospecting the risk up to what you told us about as to what is happening in the rural households with this impact, and also the DM monitoring potential based on the historical information that it can provide, so we can envision what will happen in the future and can prevent certain impacts. I always think that the impact assessment is not only a way to respond, but also to act ahead of time in anticipation and to prevent through public policies other structural aspects regarding the risk variables. And I feel that DM makes a concrete contribution to that is for the agri-food systems. But now we will be um, having a presentation by Maria Vera. She works for Action Against Hunger, Acción contra el Hambre in Latin America. Maria, you have been working as a specialist in information management, trying to focus on the impact of the different impacts that we have been discussing as regards El Niña and El Niño, and how that is actually affecting food security. So please share your presentation with us now on such an important matter. Thank you, Mariana, and I would like to thank the rest of the panel. Good afternoon, everyone. I will present what we're doing in Action Against Hunger to be able to fight against not only the causes of malnutrition, but also the consequences of hunger in the world. We have over 20 years of work in Central America, precisely in comprehensive programs for nutrition and food security, focused on children below the age of 5, who are the ones that are suffering the most from the impact of the weather impacts that we have been hearing about. When we look at the percentages of malnutrition in the world, both chronic and acute, we don't see any improvement, particularly in the Latin American region. Last year, in the Latin American Conference on Malnutrition, an analysis was made of what was happening because the ratios don't seem to improve after COVID, where we actually had quite an interruption in our work. Doesn't seem to be improving. So we're wondering whether we might not be really working where in the most urgent areas, just as if FAO colleagues have said, and the rest of the people on the panel, we use reliable sources that tell us where to target our actions. So this is a tool that we have, Prenisan, to predict the level of food security. When we look at the map that is published by USA, FuseNet, actually, when we look at this, for instance, in Honduras, we can't see where we need to work. We know that the donors' funds are not infinite, so we need to prioritize our actions. And that's how where Predisan comes into play. It's a food security, nutrition monitoring, and forecasting system for Central America based on primary and secondary data sources. When we talk about prediction, it's talking about what is happening in real time without the need of taking real-time data. So it's an urgent response based on secondary data, where we do a predictive analysis to understand what areas are the ones that are more worthy of concern. We're in Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras and Nicaragua, you have the QR code. You can scan it to be able to access our website. It's an open source website that we are managing along with the Granada University in Spain. This is a spin-off that that is made up of different experts that work on analyzing this data. For instance, the data that was being shown by Juan Pablo just a bit ago are part of the platform, and they are useful for coming up with the predictive models that I mentioned. When you look at this platform, you'll see that it has four main elements. First, we have the baseline indicators that we get from different secondary sources. That could be the rainfall indexes that we get from NASA directly and the vegetation indexes. And also we're monitoring the price of food or what the media says about the matter. And based on all the secondary data, we come up with different profiles that show us the population that is suffering the most. And it also shows us the areas that we need to intervene. And we also see the population that is most vulnerable than the rest. And then we have the hazards. We have a system that gives us level of threats at the municipal level. And then with all the secondary data from the municipal sector that comes from the coordination of the work with different stakeholders, not only from the public sector, but also the private one. And then we have the results where we see the results of the primary information, both from the action against hunger and our work in Central America, but also all the surveys that we upload to the platform. One is one by AFAO and all the information that we have in Guatemala and Honduras. And then we have predictions that tells us that based on all the data that we have, what areas are the ones that are most, that the ones we should be most concerned about. I invite you to visit this and to review the information. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. This is the platform. If we look at the rainfall index, we will be able to see the areas more at risk. This is from last year where we did our first exercise during the El Nino period to target our actions. This analysis, this is the weather analysis, which we actually do a cross check with the different basic food security indicators, showing us where we need to gather information to be able to verify that these are the areas that are the most vulnerable. So this, when you look at it as a whole, shows us where we need to target our actions. We program and schedule our action with our teams in the places that we're present in, and we survey information very fast, and this allows us to locate the most vulnerable areas that will be suffering the greatest impact, and we're able to quantify the impact to continue working with different donors and also from public agencies. And from all the municipalities that we were able to assess, 1.1 million people were in a critical situation, and the 250,000 and 500,000 were in a extremely critical situation. So this has allowed us target our actions to those people. I might be talking too fast, but basically that's what I wanted to share with you. That's what we're doing. I invite you to visit our website, our platform, and there's my information if you want to contact me. Thank you so much, Maria, for such an interesting presentation. And now, I don't know if this is being shared in the chat because I haven't been paying attention to that, but the FAO website where we will have all the webinars, you will find all these presentations and the links to additional information that the panel members have shared with us, including what Yolanda Gonzalez of CIIFEN shared with us. So you can review the presentations once again in further detail, because I didn't allow the panel members much time to expand upon their topics because I wanted to stick to the time that we have. But all that information will be there. So thanks again, Maria, for that presentation on how you have been able to combine forecasts and other types of information to be able to target the population that is actually uh, in severe food insecurity context, especially in a region such as Central America, where we have the dry corridor countries, and besides Haiti, where we have the highest concentration of acute food insecurity, which is actually a threat, a very direct threat to the welfare of the population and to affecting their survival. Now we have the last presentation by Debbie Williams. Debbie.
To facilitate the introduction of Debbie Williams. She's the head of planning of the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, and Rural Transformation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This is a small development insular island in the Caribbean. I think I got that wrong, but I hope you got me. And she's going to speak about how they are dealing, how they are handling this issue of measuring impact of different types of shocks, climate shocks related to El Niño, La Niña in the agri-food systems. So Debbie, we can see your presentation, but not on presentation mode. So if you want to switch. We still see it in sort of non-presentation mode, but estamos con nuestra siguiente panelista.
Our next speaker will be Debbie Williams from the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Fishing, and Rural Transformation from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. She's trying to share her presentation and the presentation mode, if possible.
Debbie, if you don't manage to switch to presentation mode, it's not really a huge problem. We can still see it fairly clearly. Now we can see you and we cannot see the presentation. And we cannot hear you because your mute is, you're on mute.
All right, I'll try it again. Some technical challenges. Is that okay now?
Yes, we can see your presentation, not in presentation mode, but we can see it.
Okay, thank you very much. And once again, my name is Deborah Daniel Williams. I'm the head of the Agriculture Planning Unit in the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry and Labour in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So the challenge is to measure the climatic change, whether it's the Niño or La Niña, has been a real challenge for us. A lot of our work has been mainly ground truthing, where we collect a lot of our data on the ground with individuals collecting, especially when there's disasters or if there's like climatic change, hurricanes or droughts. The average length of time collecting the data is quite lengthy because it requires a lot of human resource to be on the ground to collect the data. With the help of FAO, we have been able to introduce technology. Now, drone technology is not new to St. Vincent and Grenadines. It has been used, in different areas, more for commercial pictures and different viewings. But for us, in terms of the agriculture sector, drone technology, which we have started early last year, has improved in terms of our crop surveillance and monitoring. And it's been applied as part of also disaster assessments. So it's an approach that we are looking at in terms of how we advance in terms of our data collection. Currently, we are transitioning from mainly ground truthing to aerial visuals. And this has enabled us to do a comparative analysis. We have been experiencing extremely dry periods, and we've been able to see the extent of the dry periods from pre and post. And with La Nina coming on and the prediction of more intense tropical cyclones, we are currently doing pre-assessments of various areas. And there we've already started to develop a hazard map, especially for areas more prone for the high winds, which will come off the Atlantic and affect the agriculture, specific agriculture and fishery sectors, and also the same in terms of drought. But we've even gone further, not only just applying the drone technology in looking at as data collection, but we've also added early warning systems. And what we're trying to do is to integrate everything in terms of the pre-assessments, the post-assessments, along with the early warning systems, because food security is important to us. And that's not only just on land, but also the coastal areas, the sea as well. So the climate measures that we're using in terms of drone technology, we are using satellite imagery to help us along with the drone technology to map out the areas. As I indicated before, we have developed a map with which we're using for the hazard areas and where we could monitor the constant changes. But we've gone even further. We're looking now at artificial intelligence, and we're looking at how we could use software along with the drones to do have a deeper data collection in terms of what is on the ground. So the satellite images give us a pre-existing psychology of physiology of the land and its use. So we could see what is there, what's been planted, the lands that are fallow, the areas, the lands that are damaged, where there's degradation, especially in the forest areas. With the use of ArcGIS to support the drone mapping, as indicated, we are able to better prepare our maps and the areas that need that intense focus to plan how we're going to rehabilitate the area and also to have a better idea in terms of the risks and the threats to food security. And the artificial intelligence deep learning to support crop counting is new to us. We have just started that model. So we will be able to fly the drones over and with the software be able to count the specific crops, determine also with disease, pests. So we're also looking at the security there and also loss. Should we be affected by a hurricane, especially coming up with the fact that there is the possibility of very intense cyclones that is predicted for this hurricane season. We're also looking at the data image acquisition planning for how we crop plan for crop monitoring, again using the AI objective detection model training. And we've looked about how we take all that information and create a kind of electronic data system whereby not only that we could input that information, but it's there on a database that we could use. And we'll be able to predict the different changes that has been taking place over a period of time. So we're hoping in the next few years with that kind of information and the continuous development of this advanced technology in St. Vincent and Grenadines, we'll be better prepared in terms of El Nino impacts, La Nina impacts, or any other climatic changes that will take place in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We also work closely with the CIMH and the Met Office in St. Vincent and Grenadines, whereby we are able to collect that information and also translate it to our farmers and fishers. So also they're prepared as well for the next events that come that would occur in and affect their livelihoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie, for this very interesting presentation on all these technological advances. I think the Caribbean and St. Vincent and the Grenadines is a source of a lot of very good practices and innovations that is very important to share with other countries in the region. Like, for example, this combination of satellite, the drone technology, and artificial intelligence, and in particular because, as you say, it can help reduce the need for sometimes spare human resources on the ground, issues of access to the affected areas. And I think I also want to highlight how this information can help to plan how to rehabilitate the area. And I think one key message is that this planning of the rehabilitation of the sort of like red emergency phase, but the next one is also a very important part of disaster risk reduction and all the things we can do to alleviate the impacts of the shocks on our agri-food system. So thank you for that presentation. We'll start now with and I'm going to switch into Spanish. Vamos a iniciar una ronda de preguntas. Veo que
we will begin a round of questions. We have taken a little more than expected in the presentations. We know that all of the information is important when it comes to facing La Niña. I would like to ask the panel to restrict their responses to 2 minutes so we can complete the whole round of Q&A and so we can answer the questions that we have received. And I would like to invite the over 400 people that are attending this webinar to ask their questions. So we'll begin with a question for Yolanda. I would like to iterate something in my question, something that you mentioned in your presentation that has to do with the perspective of CFIN and the work that you do and the recommendations for the agri-food system, which was on one hand to be very aware of how this phenomena will manifest itself and also an early warning system. And for everything that we've been looking at, Yolanda, fishing, the crops, for the different dimensions of food security, and the different manifestations of impact and different dimensions of such impact. So what would be your top line set of recommendations for us? Thank you so much. Initially, decision makers and authorities in their plans for the second half of the year should consider where the effect of La Nina will affect them geographically, because in some areas it does cause rain and in other areas drought. So that they should take this into account to put in measures. And when it comes to drought, you must consider the supply of water, irrigation management for the farming systems and also livestock, and to control the excess humidity in the area that will generate excessive rainfall for the aquaculture and fishing sector. In sectors where the temperatures and levels of sun will affect uh, the areas and cause some deficits, and also to avoid the use of fire. So the authorities need to plan and to trigger early alert systems and to have activities that engage the community and other stakeholders. When it comes to floods, also preparing to clean the waterways and to think of the infrastructure and to look into how to manage the excess water that we will have during the floods, and to do monitoring and timely management when it comes to risks. And then we have the heat waves. The young and the elderly are affected, so we need to keep them hydrated. Although it might seem very obvious, it's very important that we need to look at the weather and health and culture too when it comes to communication, because communication allows us to bring science and knowledge to all sectors so that we take ownership of that knowledge. And then also the soil that gives us food security. We must be careful because where we have high temperatures or desertification, for instance, in those areas, the drought is worse. So we need to strengthen our measures and to have timely information to stay up to date as to regards the intensity of the phenomenon, taking the official information from authorities and from the weather prediction systems and the risk management authorities. Thank you, Yolanda. Now, my next question is for Jaime, for Dr. Jaime Letelier. And this is connected a bit to what Yolanda mentioned about the number of things that can be done to reduce risk. So up to what extent does the information that you're generating, like your institution and other kindred institutions, as regards the behavior of biomass in light of these events, is it being understood as a resource for impact mitigation and risk reduction measures? I think both the Institute and our kindred institutes of fishing and agriculture in South America and in Latin America are undergoing a change of focus from yearly diagnosis to having an approach that is more comprehensive, looking at the past to understand the present and to forecast the future. But we can't do that alone because the ecosystems are interconnected. Everything that happens in the ecosystem in the Humboldt current area affects Chile, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia. So it's essential to look at the information and to gather information. That's what we've been working with our partners in Ecuador, to try not only to share information, but also to share warnings, methodologies, and things that might seem very obvious, but sometimes are not that obvious and easy to manage among institutions. So there's a joint effort among our institutes. Thank you, Jaime. Maria, you spoke about this system called Predisan and we see that it has an IA component that is a buzzword since last year and beginning of this year. So how much has artificial intelligence helped to replace the human resources? So what's it been like to work with AI in this area? Please let us know what has happened in that area with AI, because this is really something everyone is very interested in, and we at FAO also want to know about it. Well, yes, it's indeed interesting. Artificial intelligence is extremely interesting. And we have worked only recently with that, but ISAN began in 2020, and that's when we launched the first version in 2022. We always say that this is a work in progress. The FAO colleagues of Guatemala and Honduras help us a lot to correct the model, because it's still not possible for it to be fully AI through machine learning and satellite analysis. That cannot replace yet a person that is using the platform to say, okay, this month you must go to this location or this other place. So whether in the future it will be like that, I think so. There's very valuable databases, and I think that's the path that we will be taking in the future. But at the moment, we still need people to correct the information and to train the system. And we need lots of information, lots of data series to be able to train and educate the system to predict. Thank you so much, Maria, for that bit of reality when it comes to the current use of AI, where we will indeed see many changes over the next few years. Juan from FAO Colombia, who is someone who provides lots of technical assistance to many countries in the region so that they can implement this data and emergencies platform. We have seen all the different data information systems and on the impact of food security and livelihoods. So what do you think, how do you think DM contributes to that? How can we place DM in the context of all the other options that are available to understand the potential synergies?
Basically, we generate information in multiple countries, but this is mainly focused on rural populations and agricultural uh, livelihoods. We have a set of indicators which are asked different communities, and of course that's how it's different from other evaluations and the recognition of other livelihoods from other humanitarian agencies or government agencies. The idea for us is to fill those gaps, to bridge those gaps, or to supplement the information already collected. And there are lots of room for synergies, as Maria just said, the DM has articulated with this Redisan initiative in Central America. We hope in the future we can link with other initiatives in Colombia. Action Against Hunger are here in the country doing analysis using machine learning to see other types of shocks, such as armed conflict. But the DM is not only focused on these type of effects, on the climate effects, but also anthropic effects. In case of Colombia, we also been able to conducted a survey on the effects on migrant population and indigenous communities by adopting this differential approach, and as well as everything that had to do with the populations affected by the armed conflicts here in Colombia. So in summary, back to your question, yes, there is room for synergies, and I believe that at regional level, there's lots of variables to be explored, which can be worked together to offer a most efficient humanitarian response. Thank you. Thank you, Juan. That supplements some of the questions we've been reading in the chat pod as to the possibility of extending this to other countries in the region. And it clarifies it's a clarification of the articulation potential, which is always something we could do better among us working on information systems. And for that, we need to continue to build. A question for Debbie Williams from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Let me switch into English now.
Impressive technological advance that you are testing and using already in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, using drone and analyzing the drone information with starting to analyze it with artificial intelligence and combining everything with satellite images. And I remember from a previous conversation that you're actually testing the use of marine drones to go and do this type of scoping underwater. How expensive is it? Like what can other countries expect in terms of how much money they need to put towards having something like what you have? Was it very expensive? Did you get funding from a corporation? How did you manage to get there in this very practical matter that is resources, financial resources?
Thank you for the question. It is extremely expensive. It's a benefit. It is an investment that is worthwhile if you compare it doing a cost-benefit analysis. We have to thank FEO for all the support because FEO has provided the equipment for us and the training. And they have taken us from basic to intermediate, and we will now be doing the advance in June. And it has been comprehensive in every step of the way in terms of the knowledge that has been exchanged and the way we've been developing skills. It is not cheap, but it is definitely worth the investment because the kind of information that we are actually collecting from an aerial point of view than from ground truthing is totally different. We see things from a different perspective now. We have a better idea of what is actually happening on the ground. And if it wasn't for a lot of the agencies that supported us, it would have been a challenge because we don't have the experience on the ground which FEO has. And in terms of the knowledge of the AI which we are now venturing in, that itself as well is quite a costly investment.
Thank you. That sounded like a little bit of self-promotion from part of FAO. It wasn't intended. I had forgotten actually about that angle, but I think what is key as a message is to think that this is it's not like just a payout. It's an investment, and that investment will translate into savings. And I think this is something that we have been able to actually measure in terms of how much anticipatory action reduces economic losses and has other additional benefits. It's the same with this type of investments in getting better information in order to take better decisions, like what Maria was saying. Where are you going to focus your attention? Where are you going to concentrate your measures to alleviate these impacts, to prevent these impacts? And in relation to that, I'm going to switch into Spanish now.
Let me take a couple of questions now from the audience, and there is one which I believe is highly relevant for all speakers. So I will be asking, and you let me know who would like to take that question. How 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 do you do so that this information can permeate down to the communities and particularly farmers, uh, fishing communities, so that they can make decisions and they can make actions? Jaime, go ahead. See, the thing is that we are working in a way so that we can make this information, besides, I mean, it's public domain, but we want to make it accessible. All we have is technology tools. We only had web pages before, but now we are going to a telephone or a smartphone or app so that you can see information, but in a simple way to be understood, because there are several platforms or sites where finding the information you need, it's a challenge. So when you show a couple of variables which affect a decision, I mean, it's much easier that a number of variables that will make things difficult. Besides disseminating, displaying, presenting in workshops, not only among authorities, but also with uh, those who are looking for the isotherms, those who are looking for worrying for crops. I believe that's the way. I mean, you walk slow, you walk slowly, but provided that we have scientists and provided that the authorities pay attention to us and knowing how useful this information is, I believe we're on the right track. Thank you. Thank you, Jaime. Anybody would like to supplement that relative to this topic? And you may, if you're not, if you're not sharing your information with producers, what would be your suggestions? I mean, all of you are in an area where your organizations are acting on the territory. What would be the recommended practice from your experience so as to share this information? Lots of concerns about how to assist, how to help people, frontline people, how to face this type of phenomena. How do you feel is this possibility of improving the information dissemination? What would be the key? Okay, each one of you. So, Juan. Okay, I was looking for the hand, but okay, as an organization, we manage the flagship initiative, which is working with communities in order to address their problems. Of course, this is not only direct intervention, but also how we share information and how to disseminate this information. This is a challenge because we tend to organize and share information as analytic approaches with the humanitarian agencies and government agencies, but we normally do not engage with communities in this type of initiative. So one of the first challenges, we need free flow information so that all the stakeholders in the agri-food systems can learn what's the data organizations are sharing. And on the other hand, well, focused on risk management, we need to build risk communication strategies allowing us to reach communities with the less access through communication mechanisms that are adequate to them and with basic tools such as WhatsApp groups or maybe even phone calls During COVID, many of the communities did not have access to a cell phone because of their vulnerability conditions. What we did was trying to reach them through letters, using regular letters over the mail. So that's we have to reach those who need it the most, and for that we have many communication strategies over. Thank you, Juan. Anybody else would like to supplement that? Okay, then let me now ask another question. How do you feel about the progress made on disaggregated data generation per population group? What's the state of the art in terms of your efforts, the efforts you are making in order to understand who are behind the impacts we are assessing? For instance, considering gender differences, age, or the different ethnical origin of the populations. Maria. Thank you, Marion. I believe we all agree that information generation is at the forefront, not only to measure impact, but also as a way of prevention in Colombia and Venezuela. I mean, everywhere where we are operating, we try to mainstream the information. The disaggregation level in this case has allowed us, through machine learning and through artificial intelligence, to set the most vulnerable profiles. And I believe it's no surprise that women are much more vulnerable than men, but also migrants and elderly people. So we are improving on that, and we will continue to do so. All these are new processes which we have to improve on a daily basis. Being in Central America, acting in humanitarian clusters in managing the information allowed us to improve on a daily basis the way we collect data, the way we analyze and how we communicate those data, not only to measure impact, but also, like our colleague said, to monitor what may happen and to anticipate as much as we can. Thank you, Maria. I believe it's important to acknowledge the gaps we have. There is a motivation there to bridge. This is a task for all of us organizations, helping us to better understand the impact of La Niña, El Niño, and other phenomena affecting so strongly on food production, rural populations, the livelihoods of the population reliant on agriculture, and the whole chain from the country to the city, which becomes in this agri-food system. We are close. We will adjourn this meeting today. And this cycle of FAO webinars of managing risk and resilience in agriculture, I would like to thank our guest speakers for the time and effort in preparing these presentations to better understand what's this La Niña alert warning. We discussed what we are doing already to assess impacts, to define action areas. We honestly hope that these impacts will not realize in the size or with the severity as forecasted now, but we have to be ready. We have to get ready to work within uncertainty. We have to pay attention to information and monitor. We'll be sharing through our page the multiple links to the various platforms and information tools presented by CFEN and all the other recommendations. Let me invite you all There's a link to a publication by FAO last year on El Niño and multiple impacts in the different industries or sectors, crop, fishing, livestock, the ocean, biomass. And we specify actions and recommendations to improve early warning systems, mitigation, wider actions or long-term actions such as risk reduction and preparation for the response. We had over 550 people connected. I'd like to thank the audience, those who joined the session today, and last but not least, we'll have other webinars up there in the site, and download your certificate from that link that is being shared through the chatbot. Thank you very much, and have a great day or a great afternoon, depending.